The coronavirus outbreak reveals China's darkest secret. And why is a Mr. Bean impersonator becoming a mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party? This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The coronavirus has exposed plenty of authoritarian tendencies in the Chinese Communist Party. They covered it up for more than a month. Then the police started forcibly quarantining people whether they were sick or not. Local officials welded people into their homes. And if people complained, into the box you go. Or if you tried to show the world what was happening, you disappeared indefinitely. But the coronavirus is also raising awareness about one of the Chinese Communist Party's darkest secrets: forced organ harvesting from political prisoners. Earlier this month, Chinese state-run media trumpeted a huge achievement: the first double lung transplant on a coronavirus patient. It was a story that got picked up by Western media. But Bitter Winter, a website that researches religious persecution in China, points out that there are some concerns about the transplant. The patient, who on February 24th was given days to live following rapid deterioration of his lung function, had only to wait a matter of 5 days before a perfectly matching, consenting brain-dead donor could be found. Conveniently, a mere 7 hours by high-speed train. If you know anything about organ transplants, you know that's suspicious. It normally takes months or years to get an organ. This, of course, came out shortly after an international tribunal ruled that, beyond reasonable doubt, in China, forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience has been practiced for a substantial period of time, involving a very substantial number of victims. For more on the tribunal, check out our recent episode, How to Make Money in China, Selling People's Organs. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has gone to Wuhan, China, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, to visit patients. Well, he didn't visit them in person, obviously. He visited them through this TV screen. Wow, he's standing kind of far away. Maybe he thinks you can still get infected through the screen. But Xi Jinping's visit to Wuhan is a sign that the Chinese Communist Party believes that the worst of the coronavirus outbreak in China is over. And his visit is just one of many reasons the residents of Wuhan should feel grateful to the Chinese Communist Party for their response to the coronavirus. And if they don't feel grateful enough, then they need gratitude education. That's according to Wuhan's party secretary. He's the new top official in Wuhan after the last guy got fired for covering up the spread of the virus. That announcement came after the vice premier of China visited Wuhan. She was given a tour by local officials who were showing off how cleaned up the city had become and how much food grocery stores had. Local residents had this to say. And as you might guess from that clip, the Wuhan party secretary's call for gratitude education didn't go over well. In fact, the backlash was so big that the original article was pulled from the internet. And media have been ordered not to share the original article, publish commentaries, or otherwise address the issue at all. Yeah, they really need some gratitude education. China already has a vast network of surveillance with things like AI facial recognition cameras. But that system has gone into overdrive during the coronavirus outbreak. And to help ensure that all Chinese people show the appropriate levels of gratitude to communist officials, that system will probably be here to stay. And don't worry, authorities will be able to see how grateful you are, even if you're wearing a mask. But some people just don't know how to be grateful. Like this guy, Xu Zhiyong. He's a well-known Chinese activist who called Chinese leader Xi Jinping's response to the coronavirus clueless. He now faces up to 15 years in jail for subversion, and he should be grateful it wasn't more. Then again, maybe he'll gratefully volunteer his lungs for transplant. And you know who's really not grateful? Tibetans living overseas. In New York on Tuesday, 1,000 Tibetan protesters came out to commemorate the anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party liberating Tibet in 1959. Liberating Tibetans from their lives, that is. At least they're grateful to be in America, where they can protest the Communist Party without getting their organs harvested. Speaking of crimes against humanity, there's a Mr. Bean impersonator in China. Mr. P. That's P like the vegetable, not... Never mind. Here's Chinese state-run CGTN for more.
Nigel arrived in Wuhan in January for tourism purpose and chose to stay there after the outbreak.
Yes, he chose to stay there. And ever since, he's become a propaganda tool for the Chinese Communist Party. Widely circulated clips of Mr. P show him enjoying the lockdown life in Wuhan and applauding the government's brave decision to quarantine the city. Yes, nothing says brave government decisions like locking up citizens.
The safety measures that are taken here on a daily basis by the population of Wuhan are nothing short of being incredible. The government have done an amazing job.
I hope Mr. P enjoys his 15 minutes of fame as a Mr. Bean impersonator who shills for the Chinese Communist Party. And I thought nothing could be more humiliating than doing community theater. But the point is, everything is fine in Wuhan, which is why the government is telling people there to get back to work, you lazy bums. I'm sure the Communist Party is doing that because the coronavirus is really under control, and not because the economy has cratered because workers have been staying at home. A lot of builders have gone out of business as well because the real estate market is collapsing. But business everywhere is hurting. In fact, in the US, the Council on Foreign Relations was going to hold a roundtable discussion called Doing Business Under Coronavirus. But then the coronavirus conference was canceled because of the coronavirus. Very reassuring. But the coronavirus hasn't slowed down China's military ambitions. The Chinese Navy is outbuilding everybody. I mean, priorities, right? Johns Hopkins University has created an interactive map showing the coronavirus outbreak. It's been used for months by governments and news organizations around the world. And now, the Taiwanese government is lodging a protest over it. Why? Because Taiwan is no longer called Taiwan. It's called Taipei and Environs. That's just what the World Health Organization calls Taiwan. You know, I don't think it's the coronavirus that's making me feel sick. But the good news is that after lots of negative publicity about the decision, Johns Hopkins has decided to change its map back to saying Taiwan. They're now using the US State Department's naming conventions instead of the WHO.